So, good morning, everybody. We're in San Antonio. Any San Antonio Spurs fans in the building? Okay. There's a few of you. So, I'd like to thank NICE K-12 Conference for having me as their student keynote speaker and to be able to share my experience with cybersecurity to all of you. It's a great honor to be able to do that and pass on my experience to all of you to hopefully encourage more cybersecurity students and leaders in the future. Next slide. Oh, okay. So I'm Zhang. I'm a 12th grader at Westview High School in Portland, Oregon. And my academic interests include math, cybersecurity, science bowl. In math, I've been qualified to the USAMO, which is the United States of America Mathematical Olympiad, that around 200 high schoolers go to every year. It's a really nice achievement. Apart from that, in cybersecurity, I'm the founder and president of Youth Cyber Defender, which is a nonprofit organization meant to help educate young cybersecurity students. I've also published some of my research at the FECS, which is the Frontiers in Education for Computer Science and Engineering. And apart from that, as a member of the Westview High School Science Bowl team, we've actually made it to first in regionals and gone to the National Science Bowl competition. Apart from that, my hobbies include tennis, pickleball, and chess, where as a member of the Westview High School chess team, we became the 2023 state champions of Oregon. Thank you. Next slide, please. So to begin my journey with cybersecurity, I initially began it by combining computer science and math. Now for me, computer science mainly before was programming with Python, and I in fact have continued some of that programming by doing things like the USICO and other similar activities. But I got into cybersecurity in middle school, where I began to do Cyber Patriot and some other competitions where we have been to like platinum semifinals for Cyber Patriot. Apart from that, I've also attended many camps to increase my cybersecurity experience and knowledge, such as the National Cyber Challenge Camp, which was awarded through the National Cyber Scholars with Honors, as well as the Youth Cybersecurity Leadership Camp, which is more well known as like the NSLC at Johns Hopkins University, and the Northwest Cyber Camp. And then following a lot of these experiences, I was motivated to start my initiative after meeting with a small business owner who sort of like complained that he wasn't really able to get a lot of cybersecurity protection that he deserved due to his lack of funds. Next slide, please. So Youth Cyber Defender is the organization that I co-founded and am a president of. Currently, it consists of a few team members from a number of different schools. And right now, our mission is to promote cybersecurity education among elementary school, middle school, and high school students, and to use our knowledge to secure our cyber infrastructure for our community and beyond. In the Department of Education, we've hosted over 30 sessions for 250 plus students across the United States. So from like our home state of Oregon all the way east to like Florida, Illinois, and all that stuff. We've also been like a primary motivator for a number of school clubs in schools in Portland. And some of our members have founded clubs within their schools to help promote cybersecurity learning within their communities. We've organized site minutes to the Oregon State University Cybersecurity Operations Center, and we've also invited a number of guest speakers, including leading CISOs and industry experts, to speak to students across the country to impart their experiences, knowledge, and wisdom to our future cybersecurity leaders and employees. And in addition to that, we also have a number of teams for competitions like, as mentioned before, Cyber Patriot, Pico CDF, and Cyber Start America. Next slide, please. So the motivations for my project is the plight of small businesses. So every year, small businesses leak a lot of money due to cybersecurity problems. In fact, over the last year, they've lost almost $3 billion due to cybersecurity problems, which is kind of a lot of money. And yeah. Yeah, and when I met with the small business owner all the way back then, it made me realize that they face a lot of problems because on the one hand, they're going to leak a lot of money through cybersecurity problems. But on the other hand, a lot of them don't have the money to hire actual professional service providers to help them with their cybersecurity. And that's a large part of my motivation to start my project. Next slide, please. So here, with my kind of assessments to help secure these small businesses, we sort of had a standard methodology. So first we would sort of meet with a willing small business, and then we would discuss over a lot of the logistics of our operations, like what we would do, how long we would test for, and what we would test. After that, we go gather some information on their site, whether it's browsing or using tools. And then we continue on to the interesting part where we try to attack their site and see if we could find any vulnerabilities. And if there was anything new that sort of popped up, we go back to the drawing table and see how we could kind of exploit that for further information about the vulnerabilities in their site. And once we completed our service at the end of the testing period, we go back and report to the owner with all the problems that we found laid out in a report so they could better secure their site in the future. Next slide, please. So the objectives of our assessment were twofold. The first one obviously is to provide a service to small businesses that will alleviate a lot of financial pressure from them, both in the fact that it is free of charge and the fact that it will patch up a lot of these cybersecurity holes within their site. And within this sort of assessment, we have three main roles. First one is the small business, who is kind of just there to provide a site that we can secure and also sort of gain through our service. The second one is the mentor, who's there to guide the students along as they continue securing the site and gain more experience and knowledge that they can later apply on to the real world and industry in cybersecurity. And lastly, we have the students who will be the ones doing a large load of the actual work, and they will be the ones who will gain a lot of experience and knowledge through this sort of assessment. Next slide, please. So we started this assessment back in 2023, and that was when we sort of got our first business to work with. And this summer, in fact, we've worked with a number of more small businesses, and our end result has been that we've ended up being able to help secure thousands of users by providing our service to all of these small businesses free of charge. Next slide, please. So here, I'll sort of go over one of my experiences as a case study with one of these small businesses. So here, the small business that we tested on, I'll call them Sunny to sort of protect their privacy. And sort of what we did was, we were a team of 6 high schoolers, and we brought our mentor along to sort of test them for 6 weeks during summer break. The only thing we really weren't allowed to do during this period was try to deny their service, because obviously they needed to stay up to actually keep their operations afloat, and we couldn't really test out any denial of service attacks on them. And even though we did have an emergency plan in case anything went wrong, we would still communicate our final report along with all of the vulnerabilities we found to them at the end of the testing window. Next slide, please. So for our reconnaissance against Sunny, we used a number of tools and methods. Of course, we started by browsing through their website, but we also used a lot of tools like NSLookup and Subdomain Finder to look through their DNS results, as well as Nmap to scan for their ports, and Nessus, as well as WP Scan to sort of see if there were any vulnerabilities with their site, since they did build their site using WordPress. And in fact, we did find a mail server on a separate URL for their site. But since it wasn't part of the testing domain, we weren't really able to do much about that. Next slide, please. For the execution phase of this attack, we were mainly focused on the OAuth top 10 vulnerabilities, such as injection and broken access control. And for this, we use tools like Nikto to try to see if there are any vulnerabilities in the site, Dirtbuster to discover hidden vulnerabilities, and Burp Suite, which is sort of an HTTP proxy to modify requests to their site. And in addition to those, we also use like Medusa and Hydra for cracking passwords, and SQL map for SQL injection. Next slide, please. In the end, we did manage to totally compromise their site. So in this slide, in the images, we have Burp, which was, so we sort of split up the tools, and like I ended up doing Burp. And I sort of found that their access control was really broken. So what happened was like, we made a test account with like 2 students. We called them both test home. We gave them identical information like age and birthday and things like that. And eventually, while logged in through a different account, what we were able to do was that we were able to actually change a lot of the information about another people's students. So like here, they were both originally named test home. Now the second one on the bottom is named JJ. Obviously, that's not really good. And a funny story about this, in fact, like, I think while we were testing, we accidentally like renamed this account a bunch, and then like we had a good laugh about that. But apart from that, we were also able to use SQL injection to get more access to their databases. And what we ended up doing was that we ended up getting access to all of the users' private information. So like their emails, their phone numbers, their addresses, their date of birth, and also their password hashes, which were hashed using MD5. And eventually what we did was like, we found out a lot of their users' plaintext passwords and their emails, which is kind of a combination to log in as other users, which is not good, especially considering the fact that they have over 6,000 users. And the final part of this was that we were able to find a place to upload files. And when we uploaded a few interesting files, what we found was that we were able to actually access a shell to be able to like go through their site and sort of do a lot of damage with that. Next slide, please. Yeah. So in the end, we presented our 90-page report full of vulnerabilities to the site owner. That's a lot of vulnerabilities. And when we were reading out our vulnerabilities to them, they were extremely grateful for our service, since as seen before, we found a lot of key vulnerabilities that like they didn't really find before. And like in the end, they thanked us a lot due to the fact that we protected so many of their users from a lot of these critical vulnerabilities that they possessed. And we did it all like for free. So we found it before a lot of the malicious actors could, and they were extremely grateful for our service for being able to do that. Next slide, please. So the impact of this project is, so far, we've tested on 7 small businesses with a combined user sort of base of 7,000 plus users. We've published a paper which is titled the ECAF Educational Cybersecurity Assessment Framework for Small Businesses. And this project has also won the Prudential Emerging Visionaries Award, which is an award given to around 33 people worldwide and 25 in the USA. And it's also won the Youth Empowerment Award. Next slide, please.
Good job.
Thank you for listening to my presentation. I will now conclude it. My information is up there. If you want to contact me, I'm also on LinkedIn, and now I will open it up for questions.
I have to say I am wildly impressed with all of your achievements at such a young age. You are incredibly talented, so let's get to these questions.